Welcome back to the Cackling Jackal. My name is James, and this is Drunk NASA. Drunk NASA, yeah. So if you don't know what Drunk NASA is, it's quite self-explanatory. Imagine that NASA, the National, what does it stand for? National American Space Agency? I don't know, something like that. Anyway, they imagine that they all decided to get wasted before sending a ship up, and before building the ship even. Also imagine that instead of having a human race of Americans, they have these little green guys called Kerbals. And what are you even? You're just practicing your rotatey. Oh no, he's off. Okay. Well. Might be asking, what is this ship? Because last we were trying to fulfill a few contracts, and I was really bad at them. I was trying to get to certain heights at certain speeds, and I just couldn't get it. So I went off camera and I hammered them out, and I did some of them. But this new spacecraft is designed for an entirely different purpose. I don't care about what height I get to, well, as long as it's positive. But I don't care what speed I get to, as long as it's not too much to the point where I crash and burn. So this is going to be called the NASA Orbital Mark 1. That's right. Enter a ship description. We are going to orbit... I can't spell God. I'm already 4 drinks in, guys, so this is going to be interesting. You're going to orbit Kerbal. Cool. We're going to orbit Kerbal. That is a big achievement, and I'm going to put 2 exclamation marks there. So, the mission flag. We'll choose a different mission flag for this one, just because apparently we can. Let's go circles. That looks cool. I like it. So, can I look at my crew? Oh, I have a few crew available. Hambert has... What is this? Do you have more XP? You know what, let's get Hambert in there. Jebediah, I'm sorry. You're gonna go in there. Cool. So, hoping this will be enough to get out there. I'm actually thinking... So I did have to upgrade my launch pad so that it could support a little bit more weight on it, which is good. I think I'm going to... Where are fuel tanks are here. I'm going to put another fuel tank on there. Just in case, hopefully it's enough. I have up to 30 tons now. No, 30 parts. I have 140 tons. Jeez. You upgrade that thing once, and that's amazing. Alright, well, let's just... Yep, that looks good. I don't even really know what these things mean. Actually, I do. I lie. But this thing, we're going to try and get orbital. And then as a secondary objective, we're going to try and land somewhere near a target. Yeah, landing is going to be the hard part, I reckon. As you can see here, so we want to go and fly near Khaldun's Doom. And Khaldun's Doom is right here on the map. So... I thought, well, instead of just having a little trip over here, let's orbit. Let's orbit the planet and then land there. Hambert here. Let's hope Hambert does a good job, because everything rests in his hands. Anyway, as usual, so we're going to have these 2 big rockets, and they're hopefully going to get us up quite high, as well as this rocket. And I'm actually going to put them all to go off in the same stage. Reason being is because this rocket should be the swivel. The reason I've used the swivel is because the swivel has the ability to gimbal, which means basically I can use it to sort of direction myself a little bit more than the other engine. I think I've also got a swivel in here. Yeah, I do. And hopefully, I'm hoping that this setup, so the 2 here and the one in the middle, will get us up high enough to get into orbit. And then this one will help us slow down to get out, and I've given myself a few extra fuel tanks here just so I can, have a bit of wiggle room. So, one stage, this is the first stage, this is the second stage, release those. The third stage will eventually release that when this engine's out of fuel. This will then fire. I won't necessarily have it fire in the same stage. and then eventually this will detach and the parachute. I also do have up here. Can I show you or not? I don't know. Up here there is actually a heating plate in there, which means that re-entry will be a little bit easier and hopefully I won't explode. Cool. So let's get going. Handbert Kerman in the pilot seat, and let's go. Let's throttle up. I don't want to throttle up all the way. I think I'm going to sit at about half-ish, maybe a little bit less. Again, the throttle only affects this one engine in the middle, and also this engine, but again, this engine isn't going to be running until later. But straight off, 1, 2, and 3 are all going to be on. These ones will burn because they're solid fuel. They'll just burn until they're done, and this engine here will help them do that. So we're going to start by putting SAS on by hitting T. So we've got stability assist happening, and that's good. And then we basically want to go to the east. And by going to the east, we'll be able to make sure that so it's easier to get into orbit from the east, in case you don't know. The reason being is if you go east, you end up sort of going with the rotation of the planet, which means you're not trying to fight it. It basically means that when you go into space, where the rotation of the planet doesn't matter, you're going a bit faster. So let's throttle about half. Yep, let's go. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we have liftoff. Oh, it's a bit wobbly. It's fine. It's meant to do that. And about this point, we're going to start sort of edging towards the east a little bit. Not too much. Just keep us going. Once these solid rocket fuel boosters are gone, I'm going to throttle up on the liquid fuel. And we can see our apoapsis is getting higher and higher. We want this to be at about, I don't know, 70 kilometers. Okay, let's throttle up on the liquid fuel. Get it nice and high. Let's keep going over. So go. Oh, I did that a bit early. Oh god, it's fine. Cool. Okay, we're plenty high now. Our apoapsis is going to be pretty high. So that line there is predicting where we're going to be. Now that line has a few limitations. We are out of liquid fuel in our first stage here. So let's just wait for it to run out and then hit that, and then go with the next stage. Cool. We still have stability assist on. I'm going to throttle this right down, because what we're going to do now is actually, if we throttle it completely off, we are going to be saving fuel. So I was hoping that we'd at least have the previous engine to do some of this, because at our apoapsis here, I know I can unlock the ability to add maneuvers in later, but I don't think I can do that now. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to point down here, we're going to point towards the horizon, and this icon here is our direction of travel. So we're going to wait until the apoapsis, which is our furthest point from the planet. Then we are going to make sure that we're pointing towards our direction of travel, which at the apoapsis will be like completely perpendicular here. And then we're going to basically full throttle until this line here ends up going right around the planet. And then we will have achieved orbit. Lovely, so let's sort of speed up until we get there. Oh god, we overdid it. Is this savable? I really didn't expect that to speed up so much. Let's see if it's savable. Oh, what? Something exploded. How much fuel have we got? Not heaps. We may not achieve perfect orbit, in which case we're just going to have to go again. And that's fine. Oh, we might achieve orbit. Yeah, so we waited way too long. That's because I accidentally sped up too fast. But we might achieve it anyway, and we're just about out of fuel. Okay. We have achieved an orbit. Our periapsis here is quite shallow. It's at 45 kilometers. And you can actually see we are being affected by some atmosphere. This is both a good thing and a bad thing, because what's going to happen is we are going to orbit the planet, and that should complete the goal. Once we orbit. The issue is this line, our orbital path, doesn't take into account the fact that we are going to be in some sort of atmosphere and slowing down. Because as you can see, this number is slowly increasing. Right, and our apoapsis is decreasing. Right? That basically means that our orbit is shrinking. We're hitting the air, we're hitting the atmosphere here, and it's slowing us down, and we're getting further away from the Earth, which means we're going to be slowing down here, slowing down, slowing down, slowing down. Then when we get to here, we're going to start speeding up again. That being said, we're going to hit the atmosphere, and it's basically going to keep slowing us down little bit by little bit. If we just left it right now, I have a feeling we would eventually hit the... Oh, hello. I totally left my SAS on and not pointing in a good direction. So let's get rid of that. Turn SAS back on just so we can maneuver properly. Now we want to be pointing into our negative path. So pointing away from our path of travel. Yep. Cool. And what's happening here is, you can see our periapsis, we're almost there. I think it's actually started to shrink now, which is good. That makes sense. Cool. And we are at the closest part to the planet now, that we will be. Assuming air resistance doesn't come into account, which of course it is going to come into account because that's how physics works. You can see our altitude right now is rising, and that's because we got past the periapsis, and we are slightly getting further and further away from the planet, until eventually over here, and we can actually fast forward to this point without ruining anything, we are going to, and you can see this is actually, we're hitting the atmosphere quite severely here, to the point where our apoapsis is constantly shrinking. Luckily we've got this heat plate here, because that is protecting us from some of the effects of the atmosphere. When this stops moving, it should be because we have cleared the atmosphere. You can see here we sort of are. Let's keep going. Cool. Still getting dragged back by that atmosphere. Although we're almost out of it. About 70,000 is our atmosphere. So now this number should be stable. Yep, that's correct, because we are no longer being affected by the atmosphere. We're no longer being slowed down by drag. And you can see our periapsis now is 30,000, which I don't even know if we'll get there. I reckon we'll slow down enough before then that we'll end up just sort of not crashing into the Earth, but just, you know, floating down safely with all luck, you know, being our way. And that's that. This is some of the beauty of Kerbal Space Program, just being able to watch a ship that you built and put into space with Handbird at the helm, just watch that fly through the air 85 kilometers above the ground. It's absolutely beautiful. We can actually see this orbit here. This thing will hit the ground after we do. God, I wish I had have done that orbit properly, because we're not going to even have to exit this orbit. It's going to exit the orbit for us. I wonder at what point do we have counted as achieving orbiting Kerbal. This might not even count. Technically, we might need to do like a full proper orbit. One thing this orbit line also doesn't take into account is the fact that the Earth is the Kerbal is rotating, as you can see. At the moment, our periapsis is... Where is the periapsis? Over this side? yeah, is here. But as you can see, even though we're going to be here at our closest point to the Earth isn't going to be, well, it's not going to be in the middle of the ocean. It's probably going to be like over here somewhere. Or anywhere, really. Anyway, I'll get back to you when there's something to look at. Alright, so we are being slowed down by the atmosphere again. You can see we are just in the atmosphere by about 5 kilometers. And all I've done is I've pointed, so you can see by turning SAS on, I can easily sort of move myself around. And if I don't have that on, I end up just flying around, and it's really annoying to control. So by turning SAS on, I can pinpoint exactly where I want to be facing. And I want to be facing away from our direction. And I can't, it's even hard to do even when SAS is on. There we go. And then I can just turn SAS off, and air resistance will take care of the rest. As long as there's not a weird resistance where we end up flipping and having this end facing our direction of travel, we'll be fine. And these things are built in such a way that the air is going to keep us in a straight line. So as you can see, we are not going to complete this orbit. It hasn't counted us as achieving orbit, but whatever. This is still an important step. While we're in space, let's take a crew report just to get some science. And whenever we're ready, we are at 27 Ks now. And we're slowing down, we're falling. This is pretty much exactly what you want. And at pretty much any point now I could deploy the parachute. I guess I'll do it now. We can keep going. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Any time now the chute's gonna fill up. And then we're going to float safely in the mountains. This would overwrite the existing crew report. Cool. And we landed safely. So let's go ahead, recover the vessel. And that was a successful mission, sort of. I mean, we didn't actually complete the orbit. We didn't land anywhere near the target location. But we did get a suborbital flight. Suborbital flight, and we got a crew report. So that's nice. Parts. We get all this stuff back, and the crew Herman is ready to go. No XP gained. So let's try this one again. We're going to try exactly the same thing, except this time we're going to get to orbit, and I'm not going to stuff up. We could go with exactly the same ship, but I'm just going to be tempted to add one more fuel tank in here if we can fit it in. Yep, and we could actually go one more part, but I think we'll leave it as that, because we didn't quite manage to get into orbit this time, so this time a little bit more fuel will help with that, also doing things at the right time will help with that. But once you're in a stable orbit, you usually want to get out of it. Otherwise you'll be just floating in space forever. So, throttle up to about half. This sounds good. Go. I didn't do the T-minus thing, but that's fine.
Let's put stability assist on. Yep, nice, easy.
Oh god, I didn't mean to... Well, okay. I didn't fix up the stages. So our middle rocket's not going yet. That's alright. We'll set it off to go as soon as we detach these two. One thing we could do if we wanted to help with our funds a bit is if we put parachutes on these things, we could recover them. And that would mean that we can save some money on the next mission. Cool, let's throttle right up. When this engine's going, we have a lot more maneuverability on our whole thing, because again, this engine has the gimbal effect, which means that we can pretty easily control ourselves with it. Usually we have to rely on, I think it's in the cabin that it kind of works its magic, or maybe the aerodynamics or something to direct ourselves, but yeah, that's what the monopropellant's for, I believe. Cool, we are almost out of fuel here. And what's our apoapsis? Cool. Our apoapsis has cleared the atmosphere. So let's leave you behind. You'll crash back to Kerbal at some point. We also have, this is an engine here. Why is this? Usually this fairing would come off at this point, I believe. But whatever. So, cool. So now we're actually going to do this properly and, actually fire at the apoapsis, not before, not after. And you definitely want to do it at the apoapsis because that's going to be when you are furthest from the planet. That's going to be when you're going to get your most efficient use of fuel. And our apoapsis is above 70,000, which is what we want. 70,000 is when the atmosphere stops affecting us. So as soon as you're outside that atmosphere, you can achieve orbit. Cool. Hambert's like, oh yeah, I've done this before. So we're approaching orbit. Approaching orbit, or approaching the apoapsis, and then we'll go for orbit. So if we just throttle up our engine about now. What's happening? Right, I need to do that for some reason. It's okay, we didn't miss it by much. How's our fuel going? Pretty good, pretty good. Is that from our last flight? Or is that, yeah, that's from our last flight. It's still in space. That's the one from this flight. Oh, we might not make it again. Periapsis. Oh, we need to be at 70,000. Cool. So this is orbit. We don't have very much fuel left, but it should be enough to slow us down a bit. We are not being affected by the atmosphere, so let's see how we go. Cool, we've orbited. Cool, so we just need to achieve orbit like that, in which case we have done it. Very nicely. So while in orbit we can do this. Our periapsis is still quite close to the planet. But we're not... our periapsis and our apoapsis are not changing. And that is good, because that means we have successfully achieved a stable orbit. Now, I don't think we have enough fuel to get us to crash land where we want, so to do the other mission. But we have achieved orbit, which is good. Hambert's chilling fine. He's awesome. He knows what's up. He's almost done this before. And we've done a full revolution, so that should be enough. That's enough showing off. We can slow down. So we want to face it away from our direction of travel, which is what we will be doing once I do this. Cool, there we are. And then let's just use the rest of our fuel. We have more fuel than I thought, actually. We have quite a bit of fuel. Interesting. Well, yeah, okay, let's just do that. Ooh, imagine if we collided with this thing. Cool. Let's, again, get rid of the rest of this. Let's make sure that we are facing away from our speed of movement. Oh god, please don't hit us. Please don't kill Hambert. Cool. Yep, that's gonna explode somewhere. Luckily there's no cities or towns on this planet. Cool. Now, I have no idea whether they simulate this in real life in Kerbal Space Program, but in real life, if you go on a really shallow re-entry, kind of like the one that we did, ours was quite shallow, you can end up essentially bouncing off the atmosphere. If you go too shallow and you don't have enough sort of angle on you to get in through the atmosphere, it'll essentially just act like a wall and you'll bounce off it, which usually isn't great. Anyway, we're slowly coming down to Earth. Let's speed it up so we can come down to Earth quickly. And I'm floating and floating and floating. 6 meters a second. A nice and safe value. Cool. And splashdown. Lovely. So we can go ahead and recover the vessel. I didn't do any science stuff. Damn it, I always forget to do the science stuff. Cool. So we get 10 science for recovering a ship that came from orbit. He gets advanced to level 1. I love it how Kerbals are so stupid that they start off at level 0. So what does that mean? If we look at, these are our applicants, that's nice. Who was it? Hambert. So what's up with you? Prograde, retrograde, hold. Cool. So we've basically... Oh, he's been in orbit around Kerbal twice. I think that's wrong. Cool. So these guys have different abilities. Courage, stupidity. But now that he's level 2, he has the ability to hold prograde or hold retrograde, which is our direction of travel and not direction of travel. Prograde is the direction we are traveling in. Retrograde is the direction that we are, the opposite direction. Lost, missing, available. Cool. Lovely. Well, that'll be the end of our getting into orbit episode, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We have 54 science, so that's actually the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look and get some science. Aviation will be interesting. Aviation will probably be an easier way to complete the contracts that require us to go to certain locations, because we do have a few of those contracts, and we also have one that allows us to ferry tourists, more ones that have tourists, and that is going to be much easier to complete if we're just going to Kerbal in a space plane, and that's because space planes are much easier to sort of choose where you want to go. General construction, what is this? Crew cabin, strut connector, another decoupler. Cool, this allows us to build bigger things. Advanced rocketry is going to get us a Terrier liquid fuel engine. Thud. And more fuel tanks. Flight control is going to give us a winglet, a Delta Deluxe winglet. Cool. And a reaction wheel. Cool. So a reaction wheel allows us to basically generate torque necessary to control a spacecraft without wasting any propellant. So that is nice. Basic science, though. This is going to give us more science stuff to do, which means this is going to be nice as well, because it means we get these science things quicker. Let's see, what else is down here? Actuators. Lovely. Cool. Well, in that case, let's start by getting more science. Yeah, let's get more science, purely because it means that we'll be able to get more science more quickly. Lovely. Alright, well, until next time, this has been the Cackling Jackal. I've been James. Thank you for watching us get into orbit around the planet Kerbal, and I'll see you next time on Drunk NASA.